What's up, everybody? Tori McElhaney joined by Terrin Waack and Will McFadden for the Falcons Final Whistle Podcast presented by Zaxby's. We are in the Mercedes-Benz press box at around 1 o'clock in the morning, coming off of a Falcons loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, 22-17. The Falcons were not without opportunities to go and score. Let's start at the very end. We're not going to go in chronological order because no one wants to talk about what happened in the first three quarters. But I do.
Even though they had a great first drive.
Even though the first drive was exactly what you would want from this team. In the end, it was the final offensive drive that everybody's going to talk about. The Falcons had third down, unable to get that 3rd and 1 from the Kansas City 13. Unable to get that 1 yard with a Tyler Algier run up the middle. They go for it on 4th and inches with Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson is dropped for a loss of 3. For me, those final 2 plays was kind of a microcosm of the entire game for this offense.
Close, but not quite there.
Yeah, close, but not quite there. And also just an inability to establish the run in the end bit the team in the butt. Yep. And I think that was what was so disappointing about this game, was coming off of a Monday night victory where you did establish the run and you felt like the run was getting going and it was on the right track. Bijan Robinson averaged 6.9 yards per carry against an Eagles defense that is pretty dang good. But then the Chiefs happened, and
they're good too.
I'm just curious, you guys, and Terrin or Will, y'all can answer this, but when you were watching this and you were seeing how much the run game was struggling, what was kind of the main point of emphasis that you took away from it?
Well, I don't think you can talk about the run game without getting into the injuries too, especially since those did happen in the first half, which we're apparently completely ignoring on this podcast.
We're not completely ignoring it.
No, it's important. Oh my God. You know what else is not there? My voice, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, back from Italy. Will McFadden, nice to see you. Don't know what happened. It's close, but not quite good enough. So bear with me. I know this is terrible on your ears, but I think the injuries are definitely notable because like we said, the first drive of this game was like picture perfect. I know it was mostly through the air, but
balance still nonetheless.
It felt like it was after what they did in Philly, where they were able to really run the ball against a great defensive front. I mean, controlling Jalen Carter at the point of attack, establishing themselves against good linebackers, downhill thumpers. I kind of expected them to follow that same blueprint tonight here against Kansas City, especially at home. Get the crowd behind Bijan, Tyler Algier, use their dominant offensive line. What do? No, is Kirk Cousins rolling out and hitting Darnell Mooney in the flat on the first play. Second play, going right back to him on this awesome crossing route. And I was like, cool. Come second half, all of this work through the air is going to pay off, and they're going to be able to just gash them. 5 yards, 8 yards, 12 yards maybe. That didn't happen. And I do think the injuries to the offensive line played a part in that.
Tori, you said Bijan averaged 6.6 last week?
6.9 last week.
Last week per carry? 1.9 tonight.
Yeah.
That alone speaks volumes. In total, Bijan Robinson had 16 carries for 31 yards. His longest was only 7 yards. But yeah, that average of 1.9 per carry, I think, speaks volumes and kind of like sums it up right there. That's a huge difference from last week.
It really is. And I can't help but think that it was a major reason why the Falcons couldn't string drives together. That was something that was so obvious. I think at one point, and this I believe was in the third quarter, was the Chiefs had been out on the field for about 65 plays, and the Falcons at that time in the third quarter had 35. You're talking about double the amount of plays.
Crazy.
You're talking about double the amount of time of possession. I don't know what the time of possession ended up being, but Terrin, do you have that number off the dome?
It was 35 to 29.
25 minutes for
25.
Atlanta.
Jeez. I mean,
60 minutes.
That's close.
Very math is hard at 1 o'clock in the morning. But I don't know. That part of it, you can't overlook. You can't overlook that this defense was out on the field for as long as they were. And you can't overlook the fact that we were through a couple of minutes into the fourth quarter, and the Falcons had ran 3 plays.
Yep.
That was wild to me when I looked up at the fourth quarter, and it was like the Falcons offense hasn't been out on the field hardly at all.
And yet the defense, I think, it did play well tonight.
It stepped up to the plate.
Yeah,
and kept on swinging.
The time of possession has been a little bit of a theme so far, even though small sample size, but through 3 games, they have pretty severely kind of lost that time of possession battle. And it's fine sometimes if you do lose that time of possession battle. It's way better than losing your voice as a professional podcaster. But
professional podcaster.
That's what we are.
Yeah, you like how I did that? Always bump up your resume, Terry.
Little plug.
Always bump up your resume. But you can live that life. The thing that I noticed, though, tonight especially, and I actually think last year's defense was really solid at getting off the field on third down. Like, they didn't do any of the really flashy things, the creating turnovers, the getting sacks, but they were really solid at getting teams into 3rd and long and then getting off the field on third down.
I agree there.
And tonight, you got the Chiefs into a lot of third down situations. But in the first half, they were 5 of 8, I believe, on third down. And really, they were 5 of 6 at one point. In the second half, they were 1 of 6. So really, it's kind of like 1 of 8 once whatever switch they flipped got flipped. But if you're going to be in a lot of those third down situations, if teams are converting those against you, ultimately you're going to end up playing against a team that's going to have these long 75-yard drives, 15, 12 play drives that eat up a lot of clock. The key there is to get a sack, get a negative play that then puts them in a 2nd and 14 or a 3rd and 9 and gives you an opportunity, or to get turnovers. And we saw that Justin Simmons interception on the Chiefs' first drive. To me, that's what the Falcons kind of need a little bit. It's the missing piece to this defense, is that pass rush or those turnovers at a more consistent rate.
Yeah. I was looking at the quarter-by-quarter breakdown for time of possession, and the first one was surprisingly closer than what I thought upon initial look. But it was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it wasn't as skewed as the others. Still, the Chiefs took the nod. Second quarter was more like 11 and change versus 3 and change, again with the Chiefs. Third quarter was the exact same as that, still like double digit versus single digit, Chiefs taking the nod. But then in the fourth quarter, it reversed, and the Falcons had the 11 and change. The Chiefs had 3 and change. So it's kind of like there was that late clicking, but that last... Circling back to your original prompt, Tori, that offensive drive just couldn't turn points to the board.
Here's the thing is, like, we're talking about this time of possession stuff, and it almost feels like a tale of third down, like two tales of third down. The Chiefs were able to convert on their third downs, especially early. The Falcons have not, over the course of 3 games, been able to convert their third downs. This is the 3rd game in a row that they are 2 of 9 on third down.
Wow.
Exactly.
3 in a row. 3 in a row. I looked it up. And that's something that so originally, because I've looked at this against the Steelers in week 1, you're talking about there were a lot of 3rd and 10 plus moments. That was a huge problem with they were in 3rd and long, obvious passing down situations. TJ Watt
hot off the edge.
Ears pinned back, ready to go. That was the problem. The last 2 games, though, it's been a lot more of these like 3rd and manageables. So you're talking 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. I know last week I looked at it. There were a few, I want to say there were 3 or 4 3rd and 4 situations that the Falcons were not able to convert against Philly. I'm going to look at third downs tomorrow when we get the all 22 and kind of really break it down. But when you go 2 of 9 on third down, you're going to struggle to string drives together. And so you're going to have these shortened drives. I mean, it just...
You need to hit explosives if you're going to do that. And the drives that they scored on,
more
Kyle
explosive.
Pitts, 50-yard... I mean, I kind of thought that the Ray McLeod little jet sweep...
Yeah, I liked that.
I loved it. And I thought that was going to be like, okay, you got an explosive on this drive. When that happens, your likelihood of scoring goes way up. But the issue, to your point, Terrin, the Chiefs controlled the middle 2 quarters of this game. And the Falcons, when they found themselves down 22-17, were unfortunately no longer in a position to be able to kick field goals. Right. So you got that explosive, but it wasn't a touchdown. And then what did the Chiefs do? They got you back into the 3rd and short, 4th and short in some instances. And that is where, it's early in the season, right? And offenses,
week 3,
because the preseason wasn't really a factor for all these guys playing together. It's still a cohesive mix that I think they're trying to find. And you're trying to do that against a Pittsburgh defense that I think is going to end up being one of the best in the league. They usually are. An Eagles team that we know how good they have been and remains to be seen this year. But the Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions, right? So you're trying to find that mix against really good teams. And honestly, I kind of think that the more distance we get from this game, people might start feeling a little bit better about this loss. Because again, if you had said you're going to go 1-1 against the Eagles and the Chiefs when we all got the schedule,
you'll take it.
You would take that. And these were down to the wire games. I mean, people were upset that this was a loss. And just 3 weeks ago, that in and of itself, there aren't any moral victories in the NFL, but I think
the what sticks with you is that it just goes to show, I think, how collectively this roster is performing early. Even in a loss, going back to your point about there's no moral victories, even in a loss, you do feel better about the trajectory of this group. Now, health is going to be a big factor in that. As we saw today, nothing against Storm Norton, nothing against Ryan Newsel. I thought they came in and performed as well as they could have. But that seeing what happens with Drew Dalman, seeing what happens with Caleb McGarry, making sure that you keep everybody on this defensive side healthy. Knock on wood, the Falcons have been
already down Nate Landman.
The
so injuries are starting to become a little bit of a factor.
And that's going to be a factor in it. And something that I think this is a statement that Kirk Cousins made that I feel like is the crux of where this team is right now, where he said, he was like, you feel like you snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, which is the inverse of the actual quote, where it's like you feel like you snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. He did the opposite. And I thought that was so well said because of the fact that the Falcons have had every opportunity to beat the Chiefs. They really, truly did. They didn't get it done on a 4th and inches play. And even though we're sitting here talking about the loss and even though we're talking about the issues and all that kind of stuff, it's to play down to the wire with a team like that is not something that I feel like, if I'm being completely honest, would have been the case in the last few years. I feel like you have to give credit where credit is due to this defense for even when Patrick Mahomes would leak out and even when Rice or Kelsey or even Steele, he ran the ball very well tonight. Who knew that was going to be such a big part of the game? But I don't know. I feel like even though we're talking about all this, there's still some hope to hold on to. And I remember saying, even before we got into these games, into the season, I was like, if you can go 2-2 in the first 4 weeks of the season, you'll take it. That's absolutely cool. You'll be good with that. So
more importantly, if your 2 wins come against NFC opponents,
yes, even better. So the Falcons have the Saints on deck, but I mean, I don't know where to go from here. But I don't know, Terrin. When you let's just look at the defense and the bright spot it's been for the last 3 weeks. Are you sold on this unit's ability to be consistent in what we've seen from them over 3 weeks' time?
It takes a lot to fully sell me. But I have been pleased with what the defense has done in these 3 weeks. And I feel like this storyline out of this game is very similar to that of week 1, where we're like, the defense did its job. The offense just fell short. So you have that in the back of your pocket, but at the same time, it would be more beneficial to see, like we were talking about, better 3rd down stoppage, more turnovers. Like, yes, you have seen 2 interceptions, and that's great, but you still want to see more. You always want to see more And I think it just comes down to shortening the drives and making sure that like they're remaining fresh out there because it is going to get exhausting.
Yeah.
And you do talk about like if injuries start to accumulate, that's another thing to keep in mind because not everyone is equipped to handle those 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 play drives that we saw tonight.
Today's episode of Falcons Final Whistle is brought to you by Zaxby's. And after a long game, when I'm tired and I need to refuel, I turn to Zaxby's. Their marinated, hand-breaded, fried to perfection chicken fingers, they hit the spot every time. Get yours with seasoned crinkle fries, a nice drink, and whichever of their 12 signature sauces you're feeling at the moment. But it always hits just right. So next time you need to refuel, go get yourself some Zaxby's.
Well, we've obviously seen the impact of Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates pretty clearly over the course of these first 3 games. But is there anyone else on defense that kind of sticks out to you?
I actually thought Mike Hughes had a pretty good game tonight.
He did. He had a series that I was like, dang, okay, Mike.
Yeah, he played, I thought, like tenacious. AJ Terrell was somebody who, and obviously I didn't watch the game live because sipping cappuccinos and
and wine.
Oh, you're talking about last week. I was like, you were sitting next to me today.
Italy. Yeah, no, today I was very much present and not in Italy.
I was like, where'd you get a cappuccino?
Thank you for reminding me, Terrin. But yeah, I was really impressed with AJ Terrell kind of rewatching that Eagles game because of the physicality, and he just played downhill and hit people like Devontae Smith every time he got the ball. Just AJ was right there to whack him, and that was kind of the feeling I got from Mike Hughes. And early on, he nearly came away with an interception in the end zone. So I think that the play of the secondary really has been kind of the story defensively to me so far this season. Mm-hmm. And that is where I think the missing piece for this defense right now is really just those negative plays at the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. If you can just get some more of those where you're stringing the running back along for a 2-yard loss as he runs out of bounds, or getting the quarterback down on the turf for a 5-yard, like that's really when I think this defense is going to hum. But to have Mike Hughes step up today in a game where the Chiefs offense didn't look nearly as explosive as they usually do.
No,
right?
I was shocked with how many screens they were running. Yeah. They were kind of dinking.
They don't want to test them deep.
They were dinking and dunking. And that's something you saw Jalen Hurts do in Philadelphia. It's something you knew that the Steelers were going to do because Arthur Smith said, I'm not throwing it around Jesse Bates.
They're avoiding the secondary.
It is very, very obvious that at this point in time, we're 3 games in. Who knows what the Saints will do? Who knows what will happen in the future? But we're 3 games in, and it's very obvious that offensive coordinators and opposing quarterbacks are not really wanting to go downfield against this secondary. And I don't know, and maybe it's also
could be the 3-game thing where just early in the season offenses are
not taking the shots as much.
Yeah, they're kind of like, all right, take the easy yards, let's get in a rhythm, let's do that, and maybe come week 12, like we're seeing a different thing.
Yeah. So far, that's been the case. Again,
the Saints will be a great test next week.
Right,
like
Derek Carr.
Rashid Shaheed, Derek Carr. Like their offense has been humming all season long. It wasn't today against the Eagles, which was fun to watch. It was really nice, honestly, to be able to watch some 1:00 games. I don't know about y'all, but getting the Red Zone channel going.
I don't know. If we were playing at 1:00, I would not be up at 1 a.m. So there is the offset of
1
that.
1 p.m. is prime time.
For journalists. Oh, man. So but no, I don't know. I go back and forth. It'll be one of those things that we'll see kind of where this defense goes from here. It's already doing things very well. There are just still some things that they still want to clean up. There's a lot of leaking that's happening. And to your point, Will, they're kind of the one thing that's missing is these tackle for losses and negative plays in like key moments. Mm-hmm. But then the inverse of that is that you have Jesse Bates getting a hand on a ball on 3rd down and knocking it away from Travis Kelce. Like
that was great,
right? Like there are these moments, and you have that you look at this defense and you're like, oh, there's the big play. And I even tweeted, I was like, you got to give credit where credit is due to this defense, where it's not perfect. And they're stringing together. Opponents are stringing together long drives, but when push comes to shove, and when they're in the clutch and it really, really matters, like they show up. Mm-hmm. They show up every time.
They do. But to your point about kind of the leaky yards, it's like they're doing the hard stuff. They're like acing the most difficult, the midterm and the final. And then they're like kind of getting
the weekly exams,
B minuses and C pluses on, your like weekly quizzes, right? It's the arm tackles and allowing three, the running back to get by three defenders before somebody finally gets him down.
Right.
And what should have been maybe a 3-yard gain turns into an 8-yard gain.
Right, which is exactly what we're talking about in week 1.
It's the details.
Yeah.
It's those little things where filling the right gap, like swarming to the ball, which they are doing those things, but then making the play when you get there.
Right.
Okay, but they're not taking as many shots downfield. Do you think that way you just are seeing this because the quantity of shorter plays is higher, if that makes sense? You know what I mean?
I don't know how you have one without the other. If the shorter plays are higher, you are not taking the deep shot. It's like
no. I get what you're saying, but I'm like, now that we're critiquing this, not getting the negative yardages and like the tackles for loss, do you think we're just noticing it more because there are so many more opportunities for it?
Oh, I got you. Like what could be.
Yeah.
Like if they were making these plays, I still think kind of the negative plays and the minimizing the positive plays are two different things, right? To me, if Caden Ellis is coming off the edge and tackling Pacheco or Steele like in the backfield for a 2-yard loss, that's a little bit different than him making the play like 2 yards beyond the line. Is like them gaining 2 yards and only 2 yards instead of 6 yards, right? Like one is a good play for the defense doing its job. The other is a great play for the defense, forcing the offense to like not do anything close to what I wanted to do. And I would love to see both. I'd love to see them clean up the average play and hold those yards like right, stop them like upon contact. I would be really curious to see what the yards after contact are for Kansas City's offense in this game.
Well, I think I saw something on Next Gen that Rashee Rice was significant. Like he had, I don't want to say this is fact, but I'm like 90% sure that I saw that he has the most yards after catch of any player in the league right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive I saw that on Next Gen Stats earlier tonight. But that's beside the point.
Yes,
we need
you
to
are
move.
correct.
I am correct. Let's
Rice
go.
currently leads all players in yards after the catch this season with 200. Leads all wide receivers in missed tackles forced with 9.
I mean, that was obvious tonight. It really was. He was the Patrick Mahomes and Rice connection and what they were able to do with some of their screens and different stuff like that to me was very, very obvious. So thank you, Terrin, for playing that
so
up.
much work in the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes stat story, and
Only
then he
4.
didn't even go for him. Yeah, 4 receptions only.
Hey, they minimize that. I think that's a win. So we need to wrap up because I think we're all tired, but we do need to give game balls out, even though I'm under the firm belief that you don't get a game ball unless you win. But Will says that we have to give game balls, so we're giving game balls.
What does it matter what I say?
This
You
is like
can't
a
even hear what I can say right now.
So Will, I will let you go first. Who are you giving your game ball to?
I know Justin Simmons got the interception, but it's still Jesse Bates for me. Like
You're like, okay.
yeah, like cool, Justin. Do it a couple more times. Like Jesse is just so much fun to watch. There was a play where I think it was either 3rd or 4th down, but again, like it doesn't matter. The end result's still the same. Where he like walked over to AJ and was literally kind of like, it was so loud in here. First off, we should shout out the fans, the crowd. It was incredible. It felt like the
crowd that did not feature Taylor Swift
in a playoff game, unfortunately.
Don't remind me. I was upset by that. Well, I will say
that's why we can't have nice things.
I have covered my fair share of Falcons games. This may have been the best environment of any Falcons game I have covered in the last 4 years. Granted, one of those years was COVID. The other one was still COVID protocols. So we're just going off the last 2 years. But this was the first true game where I felt like there was a home field advantage for the Falcons.
It felt like week 2 of the 2017 season when they opened Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Green Bay. And that was a great game. The Falcons are coming off of of that crazy season in 2016. The Packers are the Packer. Like, it was a heavyweight fight, and then towels were waving. Like, it was so great. But anyway, like on that, I think it was 4th down, and it's so loud, and you can kind of see Patrick Mahomes trying to audible, and he's having to walk up to all the line. And Jesse just like walks over to AJ Terrell and like just kind of whispered something to him, and then like walked back nonchalantly to his thing. And immediately you saw that AJ jumped a screen or a slant so hard that I almost thought he was going to get like a illegal contact penalty, but it was within 5 yards. But he ran the route for the receiver. And it was on that play that then Pat had to come off of that read. And that's when Jesse broke up the pass to Travis Kelce. So it was like, even in these little ways, when we're talking about the secondary looking sharp and guys being in the right position, I just think Jesse has so much to do with that, with the way he's coordinating and conducting everything in year 2 here, that he is so impressive to watch week in and week out.
The first thing that Terry Fontenot ever said about Jesse Bates after they acquired him is that he makes the people around him better.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what you see him do play in and play out.
Like Bill Murray in Space Jam.
There you go.
Just making everybody around him better.
Right, exactly. All right, Terrin, who is getting your game ball?
I'm going to give it to the man, Will Gypped. I'm going to give it to Justin Simmons. I just think it's absolutely wild that he has intercepted Patrick Mahomes 6 times, and no other defender in the nation, in the universe, has intercepted him more than twice.
There is crazy.
5 players who have intercepted
Patrick
Mahomes twice, but Justin is the only one who has done it more than twice, and it's 6 times of his 67 interceptions thrown. And
that's crazy.
Justin,
that's a crazy
brushed
stat.
it off. He's like, well, I played him twice a year, so it's just like overexposure or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, okay,
more opportunities.
But I don't think that's the case, because there were how many other teams that did that too?
Right. Yeah.
So I just think it was a good moment for him. It got exciting in here, and yeah, that's all I got. Otherwise, I'm giving it to Joey Chestnut.
Joey, that was awful. Sorry, Joey Chestnut. But for those who weren't in attendance, Arthur Blank was inducted into the Falcons Ring of Honor.
He should get the game ball.
I know, at halftime. And so in honor of that, Mercedes-Benz Stadium partnered with Levy to give fans free hot dogs. I think
100,000 hot dogs.
100,000 hot dogs.
Including vegan ones.
There you go. Terrin had a vegan hot dog.
2.
Ooh. But so at one point, I think this was like in the second quarter, they did a Joey Chestnut
for a good cause.
Eating hot dogs
against Arthur Blank.
No, no, let's not put that out in the universe. No, and it was, I appreciate someone, being good at their craft, but like that was so gross.
The fact that he chugged a beer after demolishing 6 hot dogs and a slice of pizza, I was like, whoa.
Respect, but keep it away from me.
Yeah, so game ball
on the gigantic Halo board.
Oh,
it was
awful.
like
You
as
can't
close
get away
up
from
as you
it.
could get. Yeah.
Real game ball to Justin Simmons.
Fake game ball.
The hot dog to Joey Chestnut.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us.
You got a tie break.
No, or just a third. Who's yours?
Okay, you know what I'll do? The guy who helped cause both of the interceptions over the last 2 weeks, Caden Ellis, he got the pressure on Jalen Hurts to cause the Jesse Bates interception. He got the pressure on Patrick Mahomes to cause the Justin Simmons interception. So I'll give it to Caden. I like what they're doing with him from a schematic standpoint. I talked to Jimmy Lake about that this week and how they can use him and his versatility. And Jimmy said, he was like, you're going to see him all over the place. And I think you saw that tonight. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more of that. I don't know. I'm a big fan. Big fan of that. Big fan of versatility. So let's wrap up. The Falcons are back home next week. We're not going anywhere to face...
Technically this week, yeah, because
it's now Monday. To face the New Orleans Saints. This, if y'all remember, when we did our pre-week 1 podcast and Will asked us predictions, superlatives, all those things. He asked,
you picked this one.
which game do we think was going to be the biggest game of the year? And I picked week 4 at home against the Saints. The Saints are coming in 2-1. The Falcons are going into it 1-2.
Ba-ba-ba.
But honestly, none of that matters.
Throw the records out the window.
Throw the records out the window, because when the Saints and Falcons meet, it doesn't matter who is up, who's down. It's going to be a battle every single time. I, for one, am really excited about it. We love a good rivalry, but it's the first division game, which is
a nice 1 p.m. kick.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin Simmons, a lot of familiarity against Derek Carr as well. Also an AFC West quarterback.
True. Now, the Saints and Bucs suffered their first loss of the season this weekend. The Panthers actually got their first win.
Catching strays with the actually.
new quarterback Andy Dalton. So a lot going on in the NFC South. And we're going to be here till the end to figure out exactly what goes on in the NFC South and how this thing shakes out. But that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you guys for joining us on the Falcons Final Whistle podcast. For Will, who's back from Italy, Terrin, who's back from eating her 2 vegan hot dogs, and for myself, it's Tori. We will see you guys later in the week to break down a very, very important rivalry matchup coming up in week 4 with the Saints coming to town. See ya.